You wake up tired, not just physically, but deep within your bones, carrying a weight that feels entirely invisible, yet overwhelmingly real. Your mind is already racing before your feet have even touched the floor, cycling through a relentless catalogue of anxieties, obligations, and conversations you wish had gone differently. You are trying so desperately to hold everything together, to curate the perfect outcome in your relationships, your career, and your self-image. But it feels as though the harder you grip, the faster it all slips through your fingers. This is the profound exhaustion of the modern age, a silent epidemic of spiritual fatigue, born from an illusion of control. We live under the crushing assumption that if we just worry enough, plan enough, or manipulate our circumstances perfectly, we can insulate ourselves from pain. But look at the toll it is taking on you. Picture a sprawling, infinitely dark canvas, a pure obsidian expanse colored in the absolute deepest shade of midnight, hex code 111111. In the very center of this emptiness stands a stark, minimalist white outline of a simple figure. This figure is you. Now look closer. Attached to the limbs of this figure are countless invisible puppet strings, stretching outward into the darkness, pulled taut by the opinions of strangers, the unpredictable nature of the economy, the shifting moods of a partner, and the ghosts of past regrets. Every time the wind blows in the external world, you are violently yanked off balance. Master Stoicism is not about suppressing your emotions or becoming a cold, unfeeling statue. It is the deliberate, methodical art of identifying those invisible strings and cutting them one by one to reclaim your autonomy and achieve lasting personal growth. Listen carefully. Most men spend their entire lives chasing a counterfeit version of personal evolution. You wake up every single morning looking for a new hack, a temporary spark of motivation, or a fresh digital blueprint that promises to magically repair your lack of discipline from the outside. You stack your calendar with frantic activity, you buy the books, and you broadcast your initial intentions to the public square, yet your internal machinery remains completely unchanged. Beneath the surface of your busy routine, you are still entirely fragile, constantly reacting to the opinions of strangers, and easily broken by the slightest shift in your comfort. The ancient masters understood that authentic greatness is never an addition of outside vanity. It is a brutal, deliberate demolition of your weaknesses. If you want to claim absolute sovereignty over your future path, you must stop looking for easy shortcuts and learn to build an unbreakable citadel within your own mind. What follows are 3 ancient, uncompromising secrets engineered to systematically rewrite your internal architecture from scratch. Treat these words as rigid engineering blueprints for your daily survival, not as casual entertainment. To understand how to sever these ties, we must travel back over 2,000 years, far from the hyper-connected noise of our current era, to the sun-baked docks of ancient Athens. Imagine a wealthy Phoenician merchant named Zeno, standing on the shore, watching the shattered remains of his trading vessel wash up on the beach. Everything he owned, his entire fortune, his life's work, lay ruined at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. In a single afternoon, the unpredictable cruelty of fate had stripped him bare. Under normal circumstances, a man in Zeno's position would be utterly broken, consumed by bitterness, cursing the gods, and sinking into despair. Yet, standing there amidst the wreckage of his life, Zeno did not break. He later walked into an Athenian bookstore, picked up a text about Socrates, and birthed a philosophy that would sustain emperors and slaves alike. Zeno recognized the first ancient secret, the absolute division of what is within our power and what is not. This is not a passive surrender, but a fiercely active stance. The tragedy of your daily life is that you are pouring a massive reservoir of psychological energy into the weather, the traffic, the unreturned text message, the promotion you were passed over for. You are bleeding out your peace of mind over things you cannot touch. The first secret requires you to fundamentally rewire your perception. When you feel that familiar tightening in your chest, that surge of anxiety when someone disrespects you or a plan falls apart, you must institute a micro-habit. I call it the terminal pause. Before you react, you force a physical inhalation, filling your lungs completely, and you ask yourself a single, piercing question: is this thing entirely within my control? If the answer is no, you must mentally visualize taking a sharp blade and cutting that specific puppet string. You let the external event fall away into the dark void. You redirect all that reclaimed energy strictly toward your own response, your own character, and your own choices. Consider the immense mechanical friction of trying to force the external world to match your private expectations. Every single second you spend worrying about what a competitor is doing, how a crowd perceives your work, or whether a partner will remain loyal, is capital you have actively stolen from your own production line. You are operating your machinery with massive internal leaks. A sovereign man understands that external objects possess zero intrinsic power to harm or elevate his soul. The harm exists exclusively in the raw, unmonitored interpretation he chooses to wrap around the event. When someone hurls an insult at you in the public square, they are simply moving air molecules across space. The air has no teeth, it cannot draw blood. It is your primitive defensive ego that actively rushes forward, swallows the air, and transforms it into a poisonous dagger inside your own gut. You are effectively collaborating with your enemies to destroy your own peace. To master the first secret, you must establish absolute, machine-like detachment. You look at the insult, the market crash, or the sudden delay not as an insult from fate, but as completely objective data to be integrated without an emotional tantrum. You become a cold, calculating general on the battlefield of your own routine, focusing every single unit of your attention on the single asset you actually control, your immediate next action. But cutting the strings is only the beginning, for the mind left to its own devices will immediately try to reattach them. The ego is a desperate creature, constantly inflating the importance of its own suffering, whispering that your problems are the center of the universe. This leads us to the second secret, wielded by a man who held more power than anyone else on earth, yet struggled with the exact same inner demons you face today. Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, sat in a freezing tent on the muddy frontiers of Germania, surrounded by hostile armies, dealing with political betrayal, failing health, and the staggering burden of an empire. How did he keep from losing his mind? By practicing the view from above. He intentionally shrank his ego until his problems dissolved. Close your eyes and imagine leaving your body, floating up through the ceiling of your room, looking down at your neighborhood, then your city, then the spinning blue marble of the earth, and finally the vast, cold, indifferent cosmos. From that vantage point, how significant is the argument you had this morning? How devastating is that embarrassing mistake you made 5 years ago? They are less than dust. The second secret is the deliberate cultivation of this cosmic perspective. To make this actionable, you must establish an evening reflection routine. Every night, before sleep, strip away the noise of your day. Look at the stark, flat reality of your existence without the emotional coloring. Acknowledge that you are a fleeting spark in a boundless universe. This is not meant to depress you, but to liberate you. When you realize how small your life is in the grand scheme of time, the fear of judgment evaporates. You stop performing for an audience that is not paying attention, and you start living strictly according to your own internal compass. Let the scale of this cosmic indifference wash completely through your daily anxieties. Most of the panic that paralyzes your execution is built on the childish assumption that the public gallery is deeply analyzing your path, recording your errors, and celebrating your failures. The cold, unvarnished reality is that everyone else is completely trapped inside the prison of their own internal monologue, desperately trying to manage their own fragile insecurities. They are far too busy starring in their own tragic movies to give your supporting role anything more than a passing glance. When you practice the view from above, you completely strip the world of its artificial power to intimidate you. You realize that empires rise and fall like anthills in the grass, that great monuments crumble into unrecognizable powder, and that your current catastrophic emergency is nothing more than a microscopic ripple on an infinite ocean of time. This realization does not breed laziness. It breeds an unstoppable, terrifying bravery. It frees you to take massive risks, to launch the project, to speak the blunt truth, and to execute your duty without looking around the room to see who is clapping. You become entirely unbothered by the noise of the square, because your benchmark of success has been moved deep inside your own internal citadel. Yet, even with detached strings and a cosmic perspective, life will still deliver blows that drive you to your knees. This brings us to the final, most demanding secret of Stoicism. It is the concept of Amor Fati, a love of one's fate. Picture a towering, exceptionally steep hill, draped in deep shadows, with a single massive word etched at its summit: change. Most people stand at the bottom of this hill, weeping, bargaining, and fighting against the reality that they must climb it. They want their old habits, their comfortable miseries, their familiar pain. Epictetus, a man born into slavery, crippled by a brutal master, understood that fighting reality is the root of all human agony. He did not just tolerate his suffering, he used it as the very raw material to forge his character. The third secret is not merely accepting what happens to you, but enthusiastically embracing it as exactly what you needed. When a relationship ends, when an illness strikes, when financial ruin looms, the untrained mind says, "Why is this happening to me?" The Stoic mind says, "This is exactly what was meant to happen, and it is the fuel for my transformation." To turn this into a daily practice, you must completely overhaul your internal dialogue. The micro-habit here is linguistic reframing. Whenever a hardship arises, you banish the word "unfortunately" from your vocabulary. You replace it with the word "opportunity." You missed your flight. It is an opportunity to practice patience. You were insulted. It is an opportunity to practice thick skin. You must look up at that steep, dark hill labeled change. Realize that there is absolutely no path around it, and begin to climb with a fierce, quiet joy. Consider the absolute futility of wishing reality were different than it currently is. When you resist a painful event, you are effectively standing at the edge of the ocean, screaming at the tide to stop rolling in. You are wasting your finite life force on a battle that was settled before you were even born. The external event has already entered physical reality. It is a hard, unyielding fact. Your anger, your grief, and your resentment possess a 0% success rate at altering what has already transpired. They only accomplish one thing: the total bankruptcy of your remaining mental energy. Amor Fati requires you to treat every single disaster like a highly specialized, custom-tailored weight delivered directly to your laboratory floor. If your business partner steals your capital, that is the exact friction required to upgrade your legal defense metrics and sharpen your screening protocols. If your body breaks down, that is the exact constraint needed to master your mental fortitude in complete physical isolation. You do not merely tolerate the flame. You become the fire that consumes the obstacles and uses the debris as raw fuel to burn twice as bright. The journey of lasting personal growth is not found in complex productivity hacks or endless consumption of fleeting internet trends. It is found in the rigorous, unglamorous stripping away of the unessential. It is found in recognizing the puppet strings of external validation and cutting them without a single moment of hesitation. It is found in zooming out until your fragile ego is completely silent. It is found in looking at the steep, forbidding mountains of adversity and choosing to walk upward regardless of the pain. This philosophy demands everything from you. It demands that you stop being a passive victim of your circumstances and start taking absolute ownership of your mind. You are the sole architect of your inner citadel. No one is coming to save you from your anxieties. You must save yourself by mastering your own perceptions. Let the external world rage. Let the opinions of others shift like the wind. Let fate deal its most chaotic hand. Deep in the dark void of your own mind, you must remain that untouched, luminous, minimalist center, steady, unbothered, and entirely free.